See, if we talk about Gen Z, we don't talk about Gen Z challenges, especially that what you mentioned about tech. We have not spoken about this generation.
Welcome to the School of Books podcasts. Today, we are diving into the mind and heart of a generation that is redefining the world as we know it. Gen Zs. Uh, Gen Zs are bold, like bold generation. They are bold, they are expressive, they're curious, and sometimes they are misunderstood. But beneath the trends and beneath the tech is a deep hunger for purpose, authenticity, and impact. So in this episode, we will unpack the values, struggles, and the brilliance of Gen Zs and what it really means to find purpose in a fast changing world. Whether you're Gen Z or simply trying to understand them better, this conversation, I believe, would open your eyes. With me today is one of the most intelligent people I've come across in my journey of purpose, in my path to discovering who I am. With me today in the studio is Imim Kalada-Green. Um, before we dive into this conversation, please can you introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, my name is Imim Kalada-Green. Well, the full name is Imim Kalada-Green, but as you can tell, Imim is a bit of a tongue twister, so I just use the last four letters. I am Imim. And as regards who I am, first of all, I'm a Christian, and I am a Christian that um, believes in two things and stands for one thing. Let me put it like that. I believe that young people can live their lives intentionally. Um, I believe that young leaders can be great leaders. And I stand for energy access in Africa. And these things have guided um, my my pursuit of purpose. Let me put it like that. And so you can find me doing leadership development stuff, youth development stuff, or energy access stuff. And I think that just gives a perspective into how I think, what I believe, who I am.
Okay, a great one. For starters, when you hear the word purpose, what comes to mind, especially in today's Gen Z world?
That's a really good question. What exactly is purpose? And you see, I've learned to look at purpose through two perspectives. First, there's the specific, and then there's the generic. I'll start with the generic. So,
Mm.
when we talk about the generics of purpose, normally, what is a plate meant for? Plate is meant for dishing food. What is a chair
Yeah,
meant for? A chair is meant for sitting, right? What is a hat meant for? A hat is meant for covering your head. And so, whether it be a straw hat, whether it be a hat made out of fabric, whether it be an armchair, whether it be a dining chair, we see that on all things being equal, there's a generic purpose to anything that is made. And so when we talk about the generic purpose, what is the generic purpose of man? I'm very glad I introduced myself, first of all, as a Christian, because it shapes my worldview on everything in life. And so when we talk about the generic purpose of man, I believe that the generic purpose of man, the primary reason all men were created, cannot be defined by any man. Think about it. Um,
mm,
you make something, maybe you build a circuit, you wire it together, and that circuit is supposed to do something. The circuit will not tell you what it's meant to do. By the way, I have an electrical engineering background. That's why I'm using circuits. Or you build, you make a poster. The poster will not tell you what it's supposed to advertise. The maker of the poster determines its purpose. The maker of the circuit determines its purpose. Purpose of a man cannot be defined by a man. Man cannot define his purpose. his manufacturer must define his purpose. I believe that for every intelligent design, there's an intelligent designer. An intelligent
Yeah.
designer being who I have come to meet as the Almighty God through Jesus Christ. I believe that he defines purpose. And I believe in God through Jesus, especially because of the resurrection of Jesus, not just because I was brought up in a Christian home. When you look at the sorry, when you look at the how do I put it? The scientifically, when you look at the resurrection of Jesus, you just have to come to terms that there is no other way that this guy did it. If he really died, he must have really resurrected. And the fact that people are willing to stake their lives on his resurrection, I believe that this person resurrected, and that's why I'm a Christian. That's what guides my worldview. So that is why I believe that. That's why I'm going to quote the Bible now in the definition of the generic purpose of man. So I'm sorry if I said a lot of things. The build-up is simply this: I believe there's a God. I believe that Jesus is the way to that God, and I do this not just out of faith, but with consideration of evidence. And in doing this, if we believe Jesus is God, that means that we believe what Jesus says is true, and we believe what the document by which Jesus led us is correct, and that document is the Bible. And for this, I would say that the purpose of man is found and explicitly mentioned best in three verses of the Bible, but two that come to mind, right now. The first is Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. And it says this. It says, um, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Man's duty, man's purpose in general is to fear God and keep his commandments, right? Second Corinthians 15:13 will give us another verse of the Bible that shows us what the duty of man is. 2 Corinthians 15, let's say 15. He died for all, that they which live should no longer live for themselves, but he that died for them. I think it's 2 Corinthians 5:15. Yes. And he died for all, that they which live should not henceforth live unto themselves, but unto him which died for them and rose again. And the third scripture, I didn't mention it before because I couldn't remember where exactly it was found, but it's found in Revelations where it talks about how man was made. All things were created for God's pleasure. And so the simple answer to the purpose of man is we are created for the purpose of the living God. We are created to keep his commandments. We are created to live for Jesus Christ who died for the sins of the world. And so purpose, therefore, would involve getting to know God and making him known because that is what is important to him. But now, I believe when you asked this question, you were not looking for the generic, but you were looking for the specific definition of purpose. And to that, I would answer that the specific definition of purpose is a unique way that the manufacturer, because purpose cannot be determined by the manufacturer, but the manufacturer, the unique way the manufacturer has in mind for you to contribute and make impact on those around you. And it doesn't have to be on national television. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be with the largest Instagram following, but it just has to be discerned. I would say something that success is not um, success is alignment with the will of God. Let me put it like that. Success is not popularity. Success is not um, excellence of operations, except when our operation is predetermined as what you should be doing by the manufacturer. But success is alignment with the will of God. And so, in a nutshell, purpose, generically speaking, is to live for God, and specifically speaking, is to bless the world in the way that God would have you do.
So that's beautiful. Do you think Gen Zs are more purpose driven or leisure driven or good?
My goodness, that's a good question because I actually come to believe that it's a mix of both. And I'll explain what I mean. So Um, Once upon a time, Deloitte did, and by once upon a time, I mean this year, Deloitte did a study on Gen Zs and millennials, and they found out that 89% of Gen Zs say that a sense of purpose is important in their work, right? American Express and the Conduit also did a bit of research and said that 4 out of 5 Gen Z entrepreneurs class their business as purpose driven. And so Gen Z as a generation is very, very reason dependent, very purpose dependent. They want to know, am I contributing to something, especially in their work expressions? And I think work is one of the greatest expressions of value. That is when you are working for something you believe in. It's one of the greatest expressions of value because what is work? It is putting our time, our energy, our attention into something to produce
Mm.
something. And so when
Yeah.
we do that, when we are giving our time, we're literally giving our life to something. And
Yeah.
Gen Zs, I believe, are one generation that have come to pick that. And so when it comes to the idea of work, we can be very purpose driven. We can be very, what is this contributing to? Right. So we can be a purpose driven generation, we can be a reason dependent generation. We ask a lot of why. Yeah. We will
Yeah.
ask why. I'm guilty as charged. And I thank God for my parents because they used to indulge me. In my house, asking why is not a sin. It helps you go far. And I think it has helped me to build my own perspectives and giving room for intelligent discussions. But then there's also a flip side where Gen Z is like soft life, right? So when you talk about pleasure driven, Gen Z is like soft life. I was talking with someone today. She's a very, very she's a notable woman in my energy field, right? And she was talking to me about some Gen Zs that she mentors, and they're like, I don't work on weekends and stuff like that. And yes, we don't want to work on weekends. We want to have that thing called work-life balance. We like soft life. When it comes to flexing, we want to flex, right? But when it comes to working, we want to work with purpose. So the way I see it, I think that we are one generation that has come to value the human experience beyond
Mm.
just work. And I've come to
Mm.
pursue a life worth living in the actual sense of living. I know that's your name. Living in the actual sense of living and not just and not just and not just pursuing and not just pursuing work for the sake of working, but pursuing work for the sake of meaning.
Yeah. There's a book that says you have to start with why. Because the why question gives us a deeper understanding of the things we understand, the things we are involved with. When you're in the workspace and you know a lot of how, but you don't know why, even the work will not give a good sense of meaning to you, even when you're doing it well. So asking the question why, like asking why question, it gives to a large extent, it gives a balance between purpose and pleasure. It's not like an either or. Like my understanding of Gen Z, I'm a Gen Z myself. So we understand that it's not either or. It's both and it's both pleasure and it's both pleasure and purpose. So now we live in a fast-paced world, tech, AI, and all the rest. Now, what really challenges do you think Gen Z face in discovering their sense of purpose?
See, if we talk about Gen Z, we don't talk about Gen Z challenges, especially that one you mentioned about tech. We have not spoken about this generation. But I would say that when it comes to challenges Gen Z space in discovering their sense of purpose, there are two things that come to mind readily. And maybe if I think of a third, I'll mention, but two things that come to mind: distraction and stereotypes. And I'll explain what I mean by distraction. So currently we have a very distracting world. I mean,
Yeah,
we running an attention economy. I believe it was the CEO of Netflix that said Netflix's competition is not Amazon Prime. Netflix's competition is any other thing that takes your attention. And that's
Mm.
scary. Why? Because your family takes your attention, your work takes your attention,
Yeah.
your personal development efforts take your attention. And
Mm.
so everything is optimized for you to click more. Everything is
Yeah.
optimized to get your attention. And the sad thing is, if they can capture your attention, they can get you to pay for the distraction. It's very crazy, and I'll explain what I mean. So
It's always
you get
about
an app.
always it's
Yeah,
always
yeah, you
about
said?
attention. It's always
Yes,
about
it's always about
attention.
attention. Yes. And so this is it. You get an app. You're using the app. It's a free version, and they make the free version so great so that you can pay for them to continue distracting you. Wow. And the reason this is an issue is because how is purpose discovered? Purpose is discovered in times of introspection, in times where
Yeah.
you are able to separate yourself, right, and actually reflect. There's a place of learning and experimenting and doing in the discovery of purpose, right? But there's also a place of sitting aside and taking stock and asking questions and knowing yourself, knowing the manufacturer, even as you pursue purpose. And distractions will never allow you to do that. Another thing that aids distractions, I would say, is FOMO, the fear of missing out. Right? It's not a new concept, but
Yeah.
it's not a new concept. Fear of missing out is not a new concept. I mean, you have rituals in early development of mankind, right? Maybe not let me not say early development of mankind, but tribal rituals where they will say for you to do this, for you to become a man, for you to be recognized as a man, you need to do this, do this, do
Mm.
that. Right? And people that cannot go through those rituals, they will feel bad. As a matter of fact, there's even one ritual that I saw that when you're of age, right, on a certain night, everybody goes out, all the men go out and they cut themselves with razors and knives. And
Wow.
little boys are excited to cut themselves, right? Because they don't want to miss out. So the fear of missing out is not something that is new. It's just that our hyper connected world, our attention seeking world makes it more abundant. And so this fuels distraction, right? Because there's a fear of missing out. Nobody wants to miss out. And before, the fear of missing out was you're afraid that you'll not be recognized as a man in your tribe. Now, the fear of
Mm.
missing out is you're afraid that you'll not be recognized at all because you are not just dealing with your tribe now. Hyperconnectedness has made the world your tribe. And so your friends are
Yeah.
coming to sing songs that they heard over the weekend on TikTok shots. But you don't use TikTok. So they ask me, on TikTok, what's that? This song was sung by an Armenian or a Colombian. And you are just there like, sure, I'm not current. Is my generation passing me by like this?
Mm.
And the fear of missing out starts creeping in, right? And
Yes. And
one thing that, and another thing that, sorry, what did you say?
to a great extent, I want to ask a question, but I want to ask a question is because it's
Mm-hmm.
almost related to you're already talking about, like how has social media shaped or reshaped how Gen Zs define meaning or success? Because, like you said, we live in a hyper-connected world where people tend to define themselves by likes, views, following and stuff like that. Those kind of metrics. So it's kind of like before you're done answering this first question, I just want you to just go direct into because it's almost you're almost like answering the question, but I want you to go deeper. How has social media shaped or reshaped how Gen Zs, the most like TikTok in particular, TikTok is driven by Gen Zs. Both the content and both the content are driven by Gen Zs. So how has this shaped or reshaped how we find meaning or how Gen Z define meaning and success?
Kai, this question I've asked is thick. I know you want me to answer it before I finish this what I'm talking about. But I think it's better I finish this one before I go to that one. So I think I'll do
Wow.
just that. I said distractions are what stereotypes, I mean. So when we talk
Yeah.
about distractions, I've said okay, distractions are fueled by FOMO, right? And another thing that helps to fuel distractions is that we believe a lie that well, we believe something, it's true, but it's a truth that as we progress, it becomes less true. The fact that you can be anything, you can just be anything. We have to come to terms that yes, there is the opportunity to be anything, but the pursuit of a certain path is saying no to many other paths, right? And so
Yeah.
we have to come to terms that potential is latent, discovery is kinetic, but when you are moving along a path, you cannot move along multiple paths simultaneously and still expect to arrive at all of them when you expect to. So what I mean by that is you can't say you want to be a baker and a swimmer and a um, track and field person and you want to do all of them, right? You want to do all of them at the highest, most competitive level, right? And you don't have a system that is helping you balance all of them. And also, you need to now recognize that as you pursue one, you might be saying no to others. You want to be a really exceptional baker, you might have to say no to to swimming
Yes,
and track and field because you
that's
are
true.
pursuing that path. Yeah. Yeah. So the next thing I wanted to say is um stereotypes, stereotypes. And when I say stereotypes, I'm like tradition. Tradition builds a mold that we easily fit into. And when I say tradition, I don't just mean the tradition that we are coming from a long time ago. I also mean um, just the way things are done. The average Nigerian Gen Z is thinking, I will finish school, then I will do my NYSC, then maybe I will do masters or I will work. This is what has been drilled into you,
Yeah.
right? And so this, whereas you could actually think, I will finish school, I will take 2 years to learn branding and marketing. I'll start a marketing agency. And then after 5 years, I'll get my MBA. You can think differently, but it takes a bit of intentionality to ask yourself the core questions and it really takes self-discovery. And I think we can talk about it as time goes on. But let me now talk about this question that you've asked. How are social media shaped or reshaped how Gen Z define meaning, right? That's the question,
Yeah.
right?
Define meaning
All
and
right.
success.
So let me first of all talk about popularity. Popularity has a way of convincing us that something is right. Have you heard this statement? You use 10% of your brain.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
heard it
Yeah.
before?
Yes. Yeah. I've heard
You
it.
know that statement is actually a lie. It's false. You use more than 10% of your brain, even when you are just resting. You, but it's become so popular that so many people have believed it. It was in 2021 that I was reading a book that's Limitless by Jim Quick. Very fantastic book. I recommend it. 10 out of 10. And I saw that this thing is actually a fallacy. But so many people believe it and they let it be an excuse to reduce their potential. But we're not talking about
Mm.
potential right now, we're talking about popularity. You see, most Gen
Mm.
Zs are online. So our idea of what success and meaning should be is based on what we see online. Years ago, for an idea to be popularized, it had to be through manuscripts written by scribes, right? And
Right.
maybe you want to rewrite a book. You will spend what 10 hours rewriting one copy, and it's not even on paper, it's on clay or something like that, baked clay or something like that, right? Before we now
Paris.
got the advent of yeah, before we now got the advent of papyrus or paper and stuff like that, right? And so before we had manuscripts, then we now got to the printing press. Printing press helped us spread information fast and far, right? But then radio helped us spread it even more efficiently. Then
Yeah.
television came along, and wow, information with pictures and it's moving and it's colorful. Or well, it didn't start off as colorful, but it's colorful now. And then social media came along. And you see, social media is doing a great job at connecting the world, right? But we need to recognize that that also means a transference of values and ideas, right? Especially the idea of meaning. And now, all of this, I've said this as the foundation by which I will now continue. Because the new dynamics of success, right, as being pushed and propelled by social media has its own positive advantages and negative advantages. Sorry, negative disadvantages. Tautology. Positive and negative. People have used social media to bring some positive shifts towards perspectives of success. And what I mean by that is that because of social media, because of the advent of social media and Gen Zs that want to break the mold and not just follow tradition, not just follow the status quo, right? Because as much as tradition has a hold on us, one thing about our generation is that we are learning to ask, like I said before, we ask the why question. So tradition is there, but we still learn to ask the why questions. So we tend to question what success means, and we share it very rapidly amongst ourselves. And so now the traditional definitions of success, which are money and career, have now expanded to include many other things. Things like authenticity, creativity, social impact, right? Gen Z now celebrates winning in multiple ways. Some of them
Mm.
say winning is building a community. I mean, building a WhatsApp community, even an Instagram community. Some say winning is backpacking across the world. Some believe winning is launching that passion project, even when they don't have a large income. And so Gen Z has come to see that success doesn't just have to be about money and career, but success can also be about doing what we love. And now
Yeah.
we can see that the definition of success is now expanded, right? I didn't say it has changed entirely because there are still many Gen Zs that define success as money and career, but the definition of success has expanded to accommodate and to include purpose-driven pursuits. Remember how we started? Purpose-driven generation. We like to ask the whys. And so the broader definitions of success now give us a platform for purpose and impact. Because now many Gen Zs use their platforms to champion social causes. I have friends that are doing stuff, amazing stuff at their young ages, going to rural communities, um, having outreaches, educating them, giving them stuff, and putting it on social media and getting international recognition for this, right? And this is because social media has a low barrier to entry and a wide access to markets. This
Yeah.
helps many Gen Zs to champion their causes globally. And so when we talk about before, where we used to use scribes, if you pay a scribe to draw for you on a clay tablet, before you will let somebody else handle it or look at it, that person must be really close to you because at least number one, it took 10 hours. Number two, it cost me heavily. Number three, if you break this thing, right? But now, even little children, 2 year old, 3 year olds, you can give them your phone, and as far as your phone case is strong and your screen guard is all right, you will be comfortable, amen, right? And so this is a
Mm.
positive impact on the definition of success and meaning by social media. However, let's talk about the negative now. And the first one I'll talk about is that success has been equated to virality or visibility. So it is normal for us when we want to measure things to use numbers. And the numbers on social media is stuff like followers, likes, comments. And so the question of success can easily shift to how viral you are online. There is a pressure in my generation to be seen as winning. If your work, your progress, or your joy is not shared online, you can start to feel invisible or invalid. And if it is not validated by random people on the internet, you can start to feel like you have failed. And
Hey,
even this is
that's
my fear. My fear is that people will start assessing themselves based on their Instagram and Snapchat and lose their authenticity. They start
mm.
doing everything for the next like and comment and not pursuing what they genuinely believe. You
Yeah.
see, it goes worse because they will now begin to lose their humanity and start to think of other people as statistics. This person is just another
Mm.
follower, just another like my page, follow
Mm.
me, like my page, follow me. And rather than it, rather than recognize the beauty of the complexity of a human being as not just another follower, this can invoke a sense of detachment, right? And actually culminate in media misuse because you're no longer seeing the humans behind the machines. You are just seeing them as digits, as numbers, as likes, as followers. And that is a dangerous place to be. Two
It
other things I will
is.
talk about on this matter. Yeah, you were saying?
I say it is. It is a dangerous. It is to
It
view
really is.
people numbers and all the rest. That is one of the reasons why sometimes I can just simply go offline. I can just simply go offline. If I don't really have the purpose of coming online to do one or two things, I don't make posts. Because if I want to make posts now, it will just be, oh, let me just post so that I have likes and stuff like that. But that's not even the reason why I'm online. That's not the reason why I create posts. That's not the reason why I create content. So I think we really need to sound a trumpet about this. It's not about the metrics. It's not about likes, follows, comments. It's not about that. It's about purpose. So even if you have just one person following you or just one person doing your content, that is enough, and you make an impact in that person's life, it's enough. It is enough.
Yeah, yeah, that is definitely true. That is definitely true. And you see, there are two
You,
other things that I see are risks, right?
okay.
The one is the toxic comparison culture, because constant exposure to highlight reels. Think about it. Do you wake up in the morning and just post yourself, however your face look, without your hair being done? You have not even changed the clothes you slept in last night on Instagram. You don't do that.
You don't.
Instagram is even from WhatsApp status. There's one time that I posted one shirt, right? So this, I don't know if you remember this Bob Daddy challenge, right? Where this song by Fowles, Bob Daddy, you'll be playing in the background, then you wearing casual clothes, then you put maybe something like hairbrush on the camera, and then by the time you're moving the hairbrush, you have transformed into very neat, sweet-looking clothes, right? There was a challenge like that. There was a time that I did that challenge once. I did that challenge twice. I didn't post it on Instagram. I posted it on WhatsApp story, WhatsApp status. Somebody that I know said, Imim, let this shirt rest. Why? The same shirt I used for the first challenge as per normal clothes, not the fancy clothes I changed into, was the same shirt I used for the second challenge. So I just wore the same shirt twice. Senior man said, let this shirt rest. I said, wow. Wow. We are not going to post just anything. I mean, if I want to post online and wear that shirt again, I would think, sure, I should wear this shirt. My pastor recently said something that has regretted me. He said, repeating cloth is proof that you own the cloth. Feel free to repeat. I said, yes, sir. That's a word for me. So, exposure to highlight reels, edited stuff, filtered stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
it can lead to
yeah,
unrealistic standards of beauty, of success, of
yeah.
lifestyle. People posting, oh, I just flipped $1 million today. They will not tell you about the 15 million they lost in the last 2 weeks, right? And they
Yes.
are actually in losses, right? Somebody comes online and she posts herself and she's looking so great, but you don't realize that there's a lot of makeup and filters that has gone into this. Somebody is
Yes.
posting, I've been working at this corporate company for the past 10 years. It's great. It's so great. I get to travel every time. But this person is dealing with general anxiety disorder. You do not know. And
You
so this
don't.
highlights real. You won't know. So you remember that I mentioned that Deloitte has done research on Gen Zs. Deloitte actually
Yeah.
said that 59% of Gen Zs say that social media contributes to their poor self-esteem or
Mm.
FOMO. That's more than half of us. And I feel like a lot more of us were lying or we did not just know. And this stats will be a lot more accurate if some people were truthful. But it gets
That's
the
it.
best of us, right? Mhm.
That's it.
It gets the best of us. And so the last thing I would say, so under negative things, the first was success is equals to virality or visibility. The next was toxic comparison culture. And the third thing is burnout from hustle culture. Ah, hustle bros are after our
Also,
lives, brother.
you know,
See, despite how many of us have said we want to live soft life, there are still many of us. that we constantly building, we are constantly grinding. We feel that this life we must blow. And what is blow? This is the sad thing. Many of us have failed to actually define what success looks like. And so we are just taking anything that is online. And
Mm.
let me say this to as many Gen Zs that we get to listen to me. Many people posting online don't care about you. They just want to go
That's
viral. They just
that
want
just
that number, that metric to increase. And so you are here following their advice, hook, line, and sinker. They are just posting what will get your attention. They don't care about you. And so now you see a young man feeling like if he should rest, if he should sleep, he will fall behind. You see young men abandoning their context. So you are telling a Nigerian boy that his first son and is about to take over his father's business, disappear for 6 months, go to disappear for 6 months, don't let anybody know your next move, go and learn an online business, go and do this, go and do that. And it's very, very annoying because the advice that's given on social media is so punchy, like they know exactly what is going on in your life and what you are going through, but in real life they don't know jack. They're just doing anything that will make them sound wise and putting out the algorithm. In fact, some of these things work, right? But they work in the right context. They work in the right context. They work in the right context. That's one thing that social media lacks. That's one thing that a lot of people lack when that rather I'll say a lot of people lack when they just take everything they see on social, hook, line, and sinker. They forget that context is extremely important. And some of the people advising you are not thinking about how best they can help you. Right? They are just there to go viral and make internet money. And so the whole hustle culture, hustle, hustle, every millionaire has four different streams of income. There are some millionaires that have just two. Sorry. But oh well, who am I? Maybe I'm not a millionaire. Oh, it, it's just a lot of advice without context. And one sure way to ruin your life is to listen to people's advice who you don't know whether they care for you, number one. Number two is
mm,
if you know who you don't know if they have sufficient understanding of where you are going and who you are. And so
mm,
if you remember the thing I said about popularity, and I'm done with the three things, three negative effects. The standards, if you remember the things I said about popularity, the standards are not being set by anyone that is loud enough and not anyone that is wise enough. And so we are receiving relationship advice from Sister Jadisola, who has had 42 failed relationships in the last 4 years, simply because she has 2 million followers and she's a lifestyle content creator. So that is the qualification is she has 2 million followers, she's a lifestyle content creator. And
mm,
this is now me advocating and reaching out. This is my call to anyone who has the degrees, who has valid and valuable experience, who actually has a heart that cares for people. This is my call to you to start creating content, start building a following. Because in the end, what it is that will count as truth is popularity and not necessarily what is accurate. And so those of us that know the truth and know the right thing, we have to be loud about it. This is my call
mm,
to you. If you know that you know your stuff, and if you know that you care about people, please start posting online. Do something. Share your knowledge. Because if you do not, we will lose many more relationships to that hypothetical sister Jadisola that has 2 million followers but does not care about people's future. She just wants to rub
mm,
lipstick and talk about her failed relationships and her trauma.
mm, mm. Do you believe Gen Z is that too much pressure to figure out their purpose too early?
Yes, yes. And I'll tell you why. It is because an abundance of knowledge places a burden to perform. An abundance of knowledge places a burden to perform. And so, in this hyper informed world, especially for Gen Zs, constant access to information can create the sense that every issue is yours to fix. But I believe the solution to that is self discovery, self discovery. And when I talk about self-discovery, I'm actually releasing a book soon, Minding My Time, and it's pretty much a Gen Z's guide to purposeful living. Um,
Mm,
the first step to self-discovery, I would say, is asking the manufacturer, okay, what is my purpose here, my generic purpose, my specific purpose? The next thing will be introspection, spending time with yourself to understand you that you've grown into being. The next step would be asking others, ask people, what am I good at? What am I bad at? I've filled, in the past 1 month, I've filled 2 forms. People have sent to me, guy, I'm assessing myself. Oh, I want to know my strengths and my weaknesses. And some of them have worked closely with me and they're asking me, okay, tell me what am I good at? What am I bad at? And so listening to people that can give us genuine information about us is another good place to discover ourselves. And the final thing is to learn and experiment, right? Learn as much as you can and try and practice new things. Learn new things, right? I learned this from a friend of mine, Baseman Olu. Says learn, experiment. You see, I've learned that in this journey of self-discovery, right? If you cannot find that one special thing you are called to do yet, it is fine. Just keep learning, just keep doing, just keep improving,
mm,
keep serving. Have a mentality to keep adding value. And I'm telling you, as long as you add value to others, you are doing well. You are doing well.
yeah, it itself is purpose. Adding value to other people, and me personally, I believe there is no purpose if people are not involved. No matter how you say, this is my purpose, if it does not have a direct or indirect, or let me a direct effect on people, if it does not have a correlation to people, then I don't think that is a purpose. Purpose always involve you and other people, and so also is the fulfillment of that purpose. Why your the purpose is to impact other people, it requires other people to carry it out. Now, before we wrap up this episode, uh, I want to ask, what kind of books do you think, or what kind of books do you recommend? Maybe two, three books you can recommend that Gen Zs should read to, discover purpose, understand self, and why do you recommend these books?
I'll first talk about why I believe that. First of all, I want to just say thank you for this conversation because it's very essential to talk about purpose because when we think about the cost of living without purpose, it's dangerous. It can lead to low self-esteem. It can lead
Yeah,
you to just because well, I mean, especially low self-esteem, you don't think that you are valuable, so you will not you don't see a way you can add value, so you don't see yourself as valuable. Let me go like that. And I think books that can really help you that books that Gen Z should read and why is number one, the Bible. See, I've come to see biological means that God is Jesus, Jesus is God. It's not because I'm born into a Christian home. I've settled down and asked the question. I've read online, I've listened to seminars, I've come to see that this Jesus guy, he looked like who no road, no, we just follow him. And so I believe Gen Z should read the Bible. Okay, even if you are not a Christian, you are listening to me, just try, please. Right. The next thing I would say is the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. My God, this generation needs that book a whole lot. It will help us to actually understand how to grow, right? And not just to grow, but how to actually pursue growth in a healthy way. Mindset by Carol Dweck. Another book I would say is Limitless, and these are all under personal development books. Limitless by Jim Quick, phenomenal book. It will help you learn faster. It's called the operating manual for your brain. Limitless by Jim
mm,
Quick, fantastic book, right? And these are all under personal development books. And when I say personal development books, I want you to read personal development books that have a bias towards execution. So books that have stuff like action points, books that have stuff like today's task, books that have stuff like internal reflection. I believe we need to write more books like that. So we're not just loading people with information, right?
yeah,
Another thing I think Gen Zs need to read, we need to read biographies because
mm, yeah,
I'll recommend the podcast here. The name of the podcast is How to Take Over the World. And this guy does some of the most beautiful, some of the most amazing biography retells. And I do that because sometimes I'm not able to read. I look for how I can consume information. And podcasts, audiobooks are a brilliant way to do that. And so listening to these biographies has helped me see how some of the greatest people that we respect and revere think, and helped me to actually think like them, right? And it's a lot more fun, it's a lot more easier because it's a story that you're listening to. And you know, stories stick better. So if I
Yeah.
tell you that, if I tell you about how leadership is about connecting with people and getting them towards a goal, such that when there is obstacles, you can remind them of who they are and they will join you and follow you. You will forget that thing. But when I tell you about how Napoleon Bonaparte made friends with his men to the point that when he was exiled and he came back to conquer the king that exiled him, the soldiers they sent to attack him joined him in battle because he connected with them. You will learn the
Mm.
value of connecting with people as a leader much
Absolutely.
better. Yeah. So
Mm.
biographies. But aside from reading, I think Gen Z should also write, right? And Living, I think you practice this well. I've seen some of your archives of writings. And what amazes me is many of those books you have not released, you wrote them in pen and paper. I said, I think we should also write because it helps us think. The reason I say that is because it helps us think. Maybe not
Yes,
write
that's
to
true.
publish yet, but write.
Yeah.
When it reaches a point that you have thoughts you believe are worth hearing and are verified by data, are verified not just your feelings and vibes, so they are verified by data. You know this can help someone. Put it out there. So these are the things I believe that Gen Zs can do with respect to their with respect to books.
Mm. That's really beautiful. Like the aspect of I really love when you said we should write more books that it's execution bias. I love that in my book club, a reading live book club. I've said that several episodes on this podcast. A reading live book club. What we do daily is we get people to read. Then there's always an action point that that is peculiar to the book club. So every day you should do something from that book. You should do something to change your life. Because I think that is the purpose of reading. That uh, there's a philosophy we have at the book club is the philosophy is uh, the most important thing about reading is not just reading, it's about doing. So the goal of reading is doing. So your reading is useless if there's not something to execute, if there's not an action to take, if there's not an things you should do to move you to that life you have always envisioned. Then concerning the writing, that is how I started. That is how I started. I was not writing to get published, but I wrote to clarify my thoughts. So yeah, yeah. To close, one final question is: what would you say to a Gen Z listener who feels lost, confused, or uncertain about their destination or direction in life? What advice? What would
The
you
first
say?
thing I, the first thing I want to say is, hey, you're not alone. We're all figuring it out. All right, we're all figuring it out. I'll say that um, sometimes it's as if things in the world are rigged against us, but we are not here to complain. I mean, we have a world that's very attention driven, very strange world, especially because of our experience with social media. Right? I would say that millennials got the first taste of social media. Gen Zs are getting the best taste of social media, right? And I just said that to say, hey, you are not alone. Many of the struggles that you have, we too, we have them. Those of us on this podcast, we we are all in this together, all in this together, man. So you are not alone. You are not alone. That's one trap that a lot of Gen Zs feel like we are alone. Guys, you are not alone. We are all going through it together. We're all growing together. Which should now lead me to
Yeah.
my next point. Like, guy, babe, you are growing, you are not showing. You are called to grow, you are not called to show. Just focus on growing every day. Craig Rochelle will say you are training, not trying. I think, yeah, it's his book Winning the War in Your Mind. Another book I would recommend to anybody, every and anybody else. But
Then the
you
way
are you are
mind.
you are you are growing, you are training, you are not trying. You are not trying. And what he means by that is when you are training, for example, if I'm training free kicks now and I play a free kick and it goes over the bar, I'll just go carry my ball, bring it back, put it down, play another free kick. But then when you now
Mm.
start saying things like I'm trying, usually, well, not usually, but how he explained it was that sometimes we're just like trying to get it right and putting pressure on ourselves to get it right, as opposed to just taking every step, every attempt towards growth is humility. Just take every attempt, everything you do for yourself to improve yourself, do it with a sense of humility that you are taking steps towards growth. You are not doing it because you are trying to force an outcome. Yes, you want an outcome, but if it doesn't work out, give yourself grace. All right. Another thing I would suggest is get curious. Get curious, get
Yeah.
curious, get curious, get curious. Let curiosity guide you because curious people will never lack knowledge, right? And
That's
knowledgeable
it.
people are more useful, right? And when I say useful, I mean they tend to add more value. Curious people
Yes.
will never lack knowledge, and knowledgeable people are more useful. And another thing I would say is experiment. I think I've spoken about that before, so I'll just skip that. But the last and most important thing is see, there is a manufacturer. Trust the manufacturer. Please trust him. Me, I've come to see that Jesus through God is the way. Who you have come to know as God, follow him. Because there are things that are bigger than you. There are things that have been in existence long before you. Who are you to come and say you want to just shift things just like that? The, I'm being vague now, but what I'm trying to say is this. There are factors beyond your control, but they are not beyond the control of the person that created them. So please, trust in God. Trust in the creator of this created space we find ourselves.
That's beautiful. Really, really good advice. Before we call this episode a close, um, please, you mentioned something about writing a book. When should we expect this book, and where can we find you online? Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Threads. Where can we find you, please? And when can we expect this book? I'd love to read this book, and I would love to have you back here to talk about this book you're writing.
Oh, living, definitely. If you call me, I will answer. If you tell me to jump, sir, I will ask you how high. But for the book Minding My Time, so I started working on it last year, July. I mean June.
Okay,
June, yeah, it was June. And
that's really you.
as yeah, as I teach the concepts more and more, I find myself finding and needing to add extra things to the chapters. As I like this now, this discussion we've had, I realize that there are one or two things I need to touch up, right? And I know it's just going to keep being like that, but um, I'm giving myself time to not just play with the ideas, but to also free up my schedule, my timetable to be able to finish and commit to this book. So if I have my way before the end of 2025, that book will be released. If I
Please,
can just settle down and hit it hard before the end of 2025, that book is out, right?
please.
But if you follow me on Instagram, my first pinned post is about the book. It's a wait list. So as many people are listening to this, just look for Imim.Kalada-Green. IMIM full stop Kalada Green, as in the color green. Look for me on Instagram, and the first post you will see on my Instagram page is the first post you will see on my Instagram page is the wait list for that book, right? Minding my time, minding my time. Maybe if you're listening to this in future, would have sold copies and all of that, and would have a more accessible way to share it. But for now, um, my don't just go there and you join the wait list. I'll get your email and all of that. I am active on Instagram. I am not active on Facebook. I am active on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I am Tamuno Imim Kalada-Green. That's Tamuno plus IMIM, then Kalada, Kalada, then hyphen, then Green. Tamuno Imim Kalada-Green. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Connect with me on Instagram. And I also run a community. It's the Tesla's Leadership Network. It's a community of young people who are committed to living their lives intentionally, building their organizations excellently, and making positive social impacts. Right? And so, if these things, if you vibe with that, then join us. I think the link to that is bit.ly/taglnet, taglnet, all in capital letters, taglnet, taglnet, Tesla's Leadership Network. If you join, you can also get my leadership course if you are down for that, right? From the registration form to join our community. There's you can actually join the community with the registration form. I think that would be bit.ly/join TLN. bit.ly/join TLN. That's capital letter T, capital letter L, capital letter N. Join is small letters, right? So you can join us from there. You'll receive access to leadership form, join the community, and all of that, right? So these are the three places that I'm heavily invested in. It's fine, right? And so, Living, I think that's where anybody can find me on the net.
I think what's a beautiful, rich, needed conversation. Gen Z's kind lost the session. It's still the new path. So if you're willing to, if you're if you're willing to listen, if we all of us, not just people, all of us, if you're willing to listen, support, and challenge Gen Z's or witness the generation that leads with depth and thank you for tuning in. If this is the thoughts and encourage you to think. If this is the first time listening to this podcast, um, I I don't know what platform you're listening from. Uh, please subscribe or follow this podcast. Start a conversation. Start a conversation online. Let's keep building bridges between generations. Until next time, keep living with purpose and stay curious. I think you only Thank you.